Well, thanks again for attending. I guess the key point in the background is I've actually been pretty fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. So I've been doing alarm management since the early 90s. For those of you that don't know, the EMEA 191 document was actually funded by the ASM consortium. So I actually happened to be involved with the consortium as that was being written, participated in a couple rounds of ASM research in alarms and helped write some of their guideline documents. And then, as Mark said, have been involved with the ISA 18 committee for many, many years. So I do work for the Wood Group. We're pleased this year to be able to say that we came out on the top for the system integrator giant, so definitely a large automation company that's really part of a bigger engineering organization. So definitely operate all around the world, so chances are we're somewhere near you. So what I really wanted to talk about was two things: give you a little bit of a history of the evolving standards and the journey we've been on, and what some of the next steps are. You'll see my slides tell you the story in great detail. I'll kind of skip through them in the interest of getting to the panel section. But then I'll also talk a little bit about just some observations from my experiences in the real world. So really, EMEA 191 was the de facto alarm management Bible for many, many years. We definitely leveraged that as well as a bunch of other international standards like NMOR, alarm management document as we wrote 18.2. 18.2 came out in 2009. That evolved into the international standard of IEC 62682. Definitely a very interesting process to try and translate the words you labored over for a decade into multiple languages. So the process definitely tightens that language. So we did last year in 2016 do a maintenance cycle on the 18.2 standard and refreshed that. One of the things that happened in becoming IEC 62682 was the addition of kind of a small multitude of additional requirements. Many of those were adopted in 18.2. Some weren't, and will start out as United States comments against the maintenance cycle for the new 62682. In terms of 18.2, my key pitch is really the life cycle. So we spent, man-decades kind of perfecting what we thought was a good life cycle. We did kind of tighten the presentation in the figure in the new version. Kind of key things that I think we did a little bit better job at this time around was really explaining the different loops that are shown a little bit better. So just some additional guidance about how to do an audit and philosophy loop to keep the philosophy evergreen, better management of change and monitoring, and maintenance as well. And really, the key message that we like to give from ISA is that really, as the ARC research showed, it's really becoming, the standard that's out there. And so again, currently in 2017, we are doing a maintenance process on the IEC 62682, and we are convening that out of the United States. So Nick Sands and Donald Dunn are continuing with their efforts there. We also have some additional technical reports that are coming out. Particularly, one I'm particularly interested in is a new technical report for alarm management for package systems alarms. So usually a thorny issue. So some new guidance coming out on that. And EMEA is about to do, another edition that actually may have come out recently, where they're actually adopting the 18.2 life cycle as well. So in the real world, there's kind of some key stakes in the ground. Definitely the standards have set expectations that you have a philosophy and that whatever you write in that philosophy you follow. that you do have at least a few metrics. Definitely percent time in flood and average and peak rates are probably the top 3 that people do. And definitely we're seeing insurance companies and government inspectors that have been trained on ISA 182, know what to expect, know what to look for. And really, the bottom line is that alarm management, it's an expectation. It's just something that if you're in the 25% that haven't started, it's probably time to get going. The other thing that we see as emerging is really much more interest in different types of alarms, getting your operating limits alarmed, getting your safety items alarmed. And I guess another brief pitch for ISA. So there's a document that's been floating around the ISA 84 committee, the safety committee, for a while, that's 849103. It's actually a new standard on SCAI, so the SCAI, which is for safety controls, alarms, and interlocks. So the document's at Rev 5, so like I said, it's been around a while. In October of last year, we formed a joint working committee between the 84 and the 18 committees to try and actually push this out. So we're definitely, it's a new joint working group, definitely looking for new members. And the guidance that we're going to put in the standard is specifically, some guidance around how do you handle independent protection layer alarms, how do you handle alarms around your safety system. So it's really the convergence of alarm management and safety management. So it's a topic that I think everyone should have some interest in, and definitely a good time to join the committee. And definitely the real world alarm management, I kind of talked about, why do it? Well, you have to, so it's probably not really something that we need to dwell on. You definitely have a bunch of other benefits with happier operators, smoother operations, et cetera. AMUA 191 set the original kind of 5 levels of performance. Kind of 2 key messages here. If you decide you want to be level 5 predictive best in the world, it is achievable. We've had bunches of clients that have done it. It can be expensive, and really my key personal message is to pick a target. And I think as engineers, a lot of times the default is, well, I want to be the best. And I guess my message would be, potentially you can't justify being the best at some of this. I can let Janet and Bonnie talk a little bit about the how, so kind of skip through this. So really here, this slide again has a lot of text, kind of a takeaway for you. And it's just kind of some general advice of, if you find yourself at level 1, how do you get started? What does it look like? And definitely 20 years ago when I started doing this, almost everybody was overloaded. Fast forward to today, increasingly I find people that are even stable when they start. So I think a lot of the good engineering we've been doing has moved us forward kind of by default. But there's definitely lots of easy ways to get started. 80-20 rule definitely applies to get you going. As you basically start getting towards stability, your alarm floods are going to be more of a problem than your average rate, most likely. And really, my other key message here is probably that the best way to solve this problem is to engineer it right the first time. So make sure that you design an alarm that only actuates when it should, rather than layering on or bolting on additional software to mask it when it shouldn't be there. It's probably better to go back and just re-engineer what you're doing. And then really, like I said, level 5 predictive, potentially you're gonna have to get pretty sophisticated to stay in this level of performance. And really, the only other message probably is that as you start moving up these levels of performance, it does significantly and meaningfully change the way you operate. So you really go from operating by alarms to operating by routine surveillance and optimization, and it really has a huge impact on the bottom line. And really, again, from the 18.2 perspective, the life cycle is really a good spot to give you directions about how to get started and how to keep going. And that's my blindingly fast tour through 18.2, et cetera. So thank you.